Reincarnation. What happens to us? Do we just have this one life and that's it? Go up in a puff of smoke, end of story? No. We have many lives. We Reincarnation. What happens to us as souls? Do we just come from nowhere, live a life and disappear in a puff of smoke? Well, the church destroyed many of the old records or anything to do with reincarnation because it wanted to instill fear in the people to have power and control, because if you're not in fear, why would you need to go to the church? So now it's becoming more known and becoming more to light that we're actually souls. We have a soul, and we agree. We may have been from other planets, we may have been from anywhere in the universe, but as souls we take on an agreement to come to Earth, to live on Earth for something that we may wish to experience. Earth is a very dense planet, so coming from other planets, it would be quite an experience to come in to live in the Earth and experience darkness, and to add to your resume, you might like to say, add to your feelings, your range of feelings, emotions, because if you're just living in love and joy, I mean, you really wouldn't know what the Dark Ages were about. Lack of love was. So a soul would agree. Nobody's telling you have to do that. You would sit with a council of people and make a decision and write a blueprint of what you wanted to experience in your life. So you say, oh well, I want to experience extreme poverty, I want to experience how it's like to be terrorized, persecuted, made to feel really like a crumb, like a little worm. How to, and then come from that experience, materialism, what it's like to live in the material world. Why do people grasp so much for money instead of honoring God as a source? Or, you know, so we do a blueprint to create experiences that we want to live in. So we look at the different parents that we might be born to and say, well, they have the qualities or the DNA that I would like to experience. So, and from there it looks really easy to do. It'll be a breeze, you might say. But then you're born and then you forget everything. So it's sort of like a bit of a shock to be born and then, you know, my mother worried a lot. She lived in fear. She was a pioneer of Australia. I mean, God love her. The challenges she faced, you know, going to a new country. And my father too, he was English, but his father was killed in the war during the first week of the war. And I subsequently found his gravesite in Brussels, where they just look after it so beautifully. You know, I wept when I went there. The poor man, he was killed during the first week. And so my father and his brother were orphaned. And then their mother, it was such a shock to her. She became very unwell and couldn't take care of the two boys, so they were fostered out. And so my father didn't have a lot of education, nor did his brother. And at 18, he left England and immigrated to Australia, where he arrived in Fremantle with sixpence in his pocket, and he was dressed in his one and only suit, which he went to the Chinese dry cleaners and they cleaned it while he waited, and they didn't charge him. How good is that? And so he had great respect for Chinese, and then he battled. I mean, it was really hard to get jobs. It was during the Depression, and he did all the he worked on the railway, he owned a butcher shop, but he was so generous he gave away all the meat, so that didn't work. I remember coming home one day and we had a roast, and we went to get it out of the oven. It disappeared. Well, that's a mystery. Where did it go to? My father had given it to another family. So they were the perfect parents for me, because I think I'd misused my powers in another lifetime, so I had to be very humble. But having forgotten, but I did have one thread of memory. I kept saying, God, you dropped me in the wrong spot. This is really, I think you put me in the wrong spot. Can you please take me away and put me in my right spot? But now I know it was a perfect spot for me, because I learnt humility. I grew up with nothing, very simple. And I experienced that life for 15 years. And then left, and so then went to materialistic Hong Kong, which is a complete opposite. So I experienced both polarities. So we actually come here to experience polarities in life and situations. We set ourselves challenges. Now, we've had so many lives going back. I know myself, I've had many, many lives, because now I remember each one of them. And I knew when I first arrived on Earth, I was very connected, and things that happened to me, one lifetime in Egypt, my son, who I was really close to and just adored, and taught him all that I knew, because I was quite psychic in Egypt. And I was devastated. He was quite young and he wanted the power, so he, put me in the dungeon. And I was so upset, so enraged that he would do such a thing. And my will was so strong. I said, well, I'm just going to kill myself. I won't eat, and I'll show him. Well, I really showed him, didn't I? I died, and then after that, he went a little crazy and took drugs and died about 6 months later. But in that life, I didn't forgive him. I died very angry and very... Ooh. So after that, I experienced lives at that level, which was poverty, hardship, lifetimes in China as a peasant. So throughout all our lifetimes, we have all these experiences. And they're ones that we've chosen to experience. They're not random, and it doesn't just happen to us. Everything that happens to us, we're in full agreement to. But the church destroyed these records of reincarnation because, that wanted to have power and control over the people. And but they're very true. And many instances, I go to a country and I relive that experience. I just see all the pictures of what I was doing there and re-experience that lifetime. I remember one time we went to Dakar. Oh, it was absolutely awful. I had such a feeling of nausea and stress and fear, and I knew I'd been there, and different places. I see the pictures, so it's like a movie in my head, in the 6 chakras of what happened. And once I was in Tibet in a cave. We were Tibetans, many lives, so many different experiences. So I know they're really real, and each lifetime we are now like a whole conglomeration of all those different experiences that we've had. And so we have all those experiences, and then suddenly it's time. And I think about 8 years ago, I was so exhausted and tired and worn out. It was my time to remember and start making my way back to love and light and joy, and to the source and God. And so it was a feeling like I had a choice. I could either die, or I could come back to the light. All the experiences of darkness I could bring to light. All the trauma I could resolve. All my feelings of not being loved, and all my awful, or you could say awful, but experiences came from lack of love. When you feel you're not loved, you don't love yourself, you draw people in to punish you, to torture you, to persecute you. And it's incredible. So when you let go of the emotional charge on those events, then you can remember the lifetime. You can have the memory, but without the emotional charge on it. And it's just like a movie, pictures, without getting drawn in. And so you don't attract that again. But it's a wonderful experience to have, feeling lack of love. I mean, growing up, I looked at love like an iron grill. Like there were so many conditions to it. So I'd forgotten what love was. And so then to remember and come back to love, living a life of love, wonderful experience. So you've experienced the polarities of what isn't love, to then remembering and coming back to love. So very grateful for that amazing experience. It's incredible. So Reincarnation is real. Brian Weiss wrote a book, Many Lives, Many Masters. He discovered in psychotherapy people remember their lifetimes. And I have people that come to me and they start remembering a lifetime. Or you might wake up in the middle of the night speaking in tongues. One really good friend phoned up and said, I've been speaking in tongues and my partner said to call you. So these spontaneous memories, and you don't have to be scared of, they're just bleeding through. And our lifetimes aren't supposed to bleed through, but they do. So your anxieties, I mean, you might have a fear of flying, fear of drowning, deep fears that make no sense in this lifetime. They're from other lifetimes. And so when you go back to that lifetime, you can resolve that fear. So it's very beneficial to know about other lives. And everything we're dealing with at the moment, is drawing you back to resolve that past lifetime. Like when I was in the dungeon, it had actually sparked off a very cold spot in my breast where you're the mother, you're nurturing, and your child betrayed you. I mean, how bad is that? So that was like the original emotional charge on getting breast cancer. Well, first of all, I didn't even know it was there. I wasn't conscious of it. And secondly, I had to, once I had a reading and to confirm that that had happened. So I knew about it in my head, but then I had to get into my body and feel all those feelings of having such a strong will and being determined to die, to punish my son. Right? Really punished myself for treating my body like that. I mean, that's a very painful death. And so I had to go back, feel all those feelings, and see from a bigger perspective. That was really stupid of me. I mean, it was absolutely pointless. And so forgiving and letting go of, all the... It was so painful, that experience, that I had a lot of emotional charge on it. So letting go of that, and so now it's a memory, because it triggered it off. I went to Egypt on a holiday, and we went to this dungeon. I started vomiting violently. I was throwing up like this yellow bile, and I just thought I was going to die. And I actually had to get a doctor, and that went on for a couple of years on and off, just vomiting this sort of bile. No doctors knew what it was. They said I'd picked up some virus or something, but I knew what it was. It was from that lifetime. And it was like waves of pain would just go through my whole body. And so it just, it's such a benefit to resolve all those lifetimes. And that has a ripple. What you resolve now goes back to all the lifetimes. And then that creates our future, because you're vibrating. Imagine if you're holding all that anger, resentment, hatred in your heart, that's what you're going to draw to you. So, I went to, when I was born, to a place where there was anger and fighting and lashing out, because that was the vibration I was at. So now, coming from that and releasing all that, I'm at a very high vibration of love. So that's what I attract. And beautiful people come into my life full of love and joy and creativity, and we have fun together, because I'm at that vibration now. So we're not victims. Things don't happen to us without our agreement. And so setting ourselves the challenges, which all looks great until we're born and we forget all about it. And that's how sometimes we get stuck in situations, because we're not conscious of what's really going on. And sometimes it takes a bit of digging to find out what actually happened. But as you clear all that, then you remember again that you're a multi-dimensional soul, and you can connect with the multi-dimensional universe. And I talk to the Palladians, I talk to the Arcturians, people from different planets who are just full of love and joy, and they just want to help the whole planet evolve and shift. And so there's nothing to fear from them. They're beautiful, and they surround you, they help, they uplift. If you ask them to heal you, they will heal you. A book will drop in front of you that you need to read, or you'll meet the right person. Things start happening spontaneously, without effort. Once you surrender and ask for help, there's so much help available. But I think I was worn down to a pulp. I'd been kicked to the curb so many times and stressed out and humbled, that it was time for me to surrender and ask for help with all humility. It was like, please help me. Please help me. And then all the help came in that I needed. So reincarnation is real. It's just the records were destroyed, taken out of the Bible. and I see the lives, and many people do as well. And so it all adds to your treasury of experiences, and you see the rich tapestry. It's just so amazing how it was all constructed and what goes into it. It's beautiful. So we can experience and have the wealth of experiences which don't just help us, it helps other planets, and it helps us, it helps everybody. So it's not a one-man show, we're all in this together. And how wonderful. And we see great spirits like Mandela, Gandhi. You know, they knew the truth. They know the truth. They're big souls. And once you incorporate all of who you are, it's like regaining your spirit. Like, a lot of my energy was still in that dungeon in Egypt where I died. So taking all that energy back, it's called calling back your spirit, calling back all of your energy to love and accept that experience as just being an experience. That's calling all your energy back. So there's not part of you still in a dungeon in Egypt. You've got all of your energy right here, right now. And that's what we're doing now. We're evolving and coming from living in fear. You know, we were not born in sin. We are beautiful, innocent, angelic children of God, the source. We're beautiful, magnificent beings. We're never born in sin. Don't ever believe that. You know, it's just not true. And it screws people up. It's just very unjust and unfair, and it's really not true. And we're not punished for anything. We're just having experiences. And if you're ignorant of something, then you wouldn't know that it's going to hurt you if you do it. So, you know, enjoy your reincarnations, and if you have experiences of being in another place at another time, it's real. It's not your imagination, you're not making it up, but it's added to your wealth of who you are. And I think it's tragic if sometimes things get so overwhelming that we kill ourselves. And that happened to me in a life in China. It was like the end of my previous life. It was like, it was so overwhelming. I was so poor. I was being persecuted so much. I just took a dagger and killed myself. And that is very difficult as a soul, because you have a certain time that you're supposed to die, and if you kill yourself prematurely, you have to like feel all the feelings of people that, you know, it's not nice. And so I wouldn't recommend it, because when you cross over, then you see what you've done. Oh my goodness, I could have worked that out. It doesn't seem so hard there. But then you will set another blueprint for yourself to come back and experience the same challenge. So you don't get out of it. You don't get out of it. It comes back. So you may as well resolve it this lifetime. Or not, you know, you can have 10 more or 20 more. So, you know, it's all up to us. We don't have to do anything at all. It's our choice, always. We always have a choice. And I'm just really happy I made the choice to reclaim myself and appreciate the feeling of feeling separate, unloved, unworthy, etc. And then coming back to learning how to love myself again, and to go back to live in love, living a wonderful life of love and joy. So the choice is ours, and you know, it's all up to us really how we want to experience life. There's nothing bad, there's nothing wrong. It's all just great the way it is.